Anne Radcliffe, formerly known as Anne Ward before she got married, was born July 9th, 1764, and died February 7th, 1823. Here is a reference picture of Anne Radcliffe, just so we know what she looks like while I'm talking about her. Interestingly enough, this was also one of the very few pictures that I could find of her. Anne's childhood. She was the only child of William Ward and Anne Oates Ward. She spent her first 8 years in a central London neighborhood called Holborn. Her father was a haberdasher, someone who sold fabric, buttons, ribbon, and the likes. He was offered a job in Bath, which was where the family moved when she was 8 years old. Anne's life after her childhood. Not much is known about Anne Radcliffe's schooling, aside from the fact that she knew some Latin and was apparently very well read. At the age of 23, Anne married William Radcliffe, who graduated from Oxford University. He changed his career from wanting to be a lawyer to wanting to be a journalist. He encouraged Anne in her literary ambitions from the beginning of their entire relationship. They lived together in London, where he was an editor of the newspaper called the English Chronicle. They didn't end up having any children. She lived a retired and reserved life and never actually visited the countries that she wrote about in her novels. Anne Radcliffe was an English Gothic novelist. She was also known for being able to infuse scenes of terror and suspense with a touch of romantic sensibility. Interesting and mostly rumored facts about Anne Radcliffe. Little was or is still known about Anne Radcliffe's life. She hated being public about the fact that she was an author, so it's not surprising when the rumors started. It was reported that she had gone mad as a result of her dark imagination and had been confined to an insane asylum. Some say that she was captured as a spy in Paris, and others say that she ate rare pork chops before going to bed so that she could dream up nightmares for her novels. Several times she was falsely rumored to be dead as well. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about her novels. The Castles of Athlin and Dunbayne and A Sicilian Romance were her first novels. It is said that her first 3 novels were written as anonymous. She became known after writing Romance of the Forest. The Mysteries of Udolpho made her the most popular novelist in England. While she wrote The Italian, she realized her full potential as a writer. This novel shows improved dialogue and plot construction, but the villain is treated with psychological insight unusual to her past works. The last 20 years of her life, she stopped writing novels and mostly only wrote poems. There is no known explanation as to why such a famous and popular author stopped publishing at the early age of 32. She died at the early age of 58, and there are so many different conspiracies on how she died that no one reason has been decided on her death. When she died, she was and still is buried in St. George's Church, Hanover Square, London, England. Next, I'm going to read the excerpt from The Mysteries of Udolpho, Chapter 1. The evening gloom of the wood was always delightful to me, said St. Aubert, whose mind now experienced the sweet calm which results from the consciousness of having done a beneficent action, and which disposes it to receive pleasure from every surrounding object. I remember that in my youth this gloom used to call forth my fancy 1,000 fairy visions and romantic images, and I own I am not wholly sensible of that high enthusiasm which wakes the poet's dream. I can linger with solemn steps under the deep shadows, sending forward a transforming eye into the distant obscurity, and listen with thrilling delight to the mystic murmuring of the woods. "Oh, my dear father," said Emily, while a sudden tear started to her eye, "how exactly you describe what I have felt so often, and which I thought nobody had ever felt but myself. But hark! Here comes the sweeping sound over the wood tops. Now it dies away. How solemn the stillness that succeeds! Now the breeze swells again. It is like the voice of some supernatural being, the voice of the spirit of the woods that watches over them by night. Ah, what light is yonder! But it is gone, and now it gleams again near the root of the large chestnut. Look, sir!" "Are you such an admirer of nature," said St. Aubert, "and so little acquainted with her appearances as not to know that for the glowworm? But come," he added gaily, "steps a little further, and we shall see fairies, perhaps. They are often companions. The glowworm lends his light, and they in return charm him with music and the dance. Do you see nothing tripping yonder?" I chose this excerpt because I thought it accurately described how well Radcliffe was at describing scenes to the point where you can picture them in your head while reading it. This passage also shows a bit of supernatural tendencies as well. And then here's my works cited. Thanks for listening.